Hello, everybody. This is Wydogen with Natural Freedom League. We are at naturalfreedomleague.com. Here again with another episode with my producer and co-host, Chill Will Keller.
What's up, brother? How's it going?
It's going good. Good to have we got a sunny day out here.
Yeah,
and in the Bay Area, San Francisco, California. We're talking to our friend Cory from all the way on the other side, Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, it's all the way on the other side. And you know what? I hope that one day we can meet, through our efforts of in real life, like changing things, you guys going out in the streets, putting up signs, talking to people. And, I'm doing the same over here. Eventually, hopefully we can reach each other in real life, and then we don't have to worry about censorship online because we have a base in real life.
Yeah, man. Unite the clans. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, actually, the first time I heard you, and I totally remember, it was listening to the What on Earth is Happening podcast, and you called in. And, this is before I even knew Will, you know what I mean? And I heard you talking about your vision with Nita, Nature is the Answer. And you kind of talked a little bit about your path. So I just kind of wanted to know, like, what was your path to get to that phone call with Mark Passio and now being a content creator on the One Great Work Network?
Yeah, so I've always asked questions, since I was really young. I know a lot of people in this community has always been like that, and that's what led them down this path into just looking into more and more information, trying to find the deepest of knowledge on the internet. And I was a researcher for sure on a lot of different health topics. So I looked into ingredients first, and then I got into nutrition. I took a nutrition course in 2014, and then another one later on by the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I got heavily into medicine and realized that there is a big tie between understanding medicine and who controls the medicine and who's giving it away and what's restricting good medicine from getting to people who need it, which is everybody. So it became a pretty big thing. I was constantly battling insurance companies when it came to dealing with clients because they wouldn't cover nutritionists such as myself to give out services. And doctors that I worked with always had troubles with the establishments. Luckily, the ones that I worked with were more independent. They didn't have hospitals ruling over them and telling them what to do with their practice. They were more free to do what they wanted, and that's why they accepted nutrition into their facility. They accepted health coaches to help with their patients and to look at those underlying root causes for their conditions. So I went along, with that and really questioned everything in the world. I always stuck with me a message that I used to always jump back to, whether I was doing research online, and this would allow me to create more observations in real life. And that message was nature is the answer. And it held true to me almost every scenario I could look at, whether it was medicine for natural medicine or whether it was law for natural law. And I know you guys call yourselves the Natural Freedom League. So I think we have a similar message here, at least, where we recognize where this stuff comes from. Our life is dependent on nature. This world that we have inhabited, we are to use to our advantage with the knowledge that we have to know how to use it. And so it's always been a process of doing that. And I'm still learning. Everyone's still learning, I believe, to just try to get this knowledge to people and to know how to utilize it in the right way. So over the years, not just attaining the knowledge, I've understood that we have to put it into practice to really see how things work. So I looked at healing the world like healing the body. I said natural medicine heals the body and natural law heals the world, because this is the relationship I saw of how powerful natural law was as an information. So my movement for Nature is the Answer, which you said was Nita, is also called Unite or UNITÄ or UNITÄ. And that's because AE, which is the Latin grammar use that I have there, actually represents laws of nature. So we are a unit of the laws of nature, and we're all trying to unite with this understanding. that of education, of bringing it through conversation and sharing it with one another. And we're essentially attaining unity through such, but we're simply sharing it so that people can open their eyes to what's all around them, not introducing anything new. We're not saying, here's something new that's never been seen before. No, it's simply recognizing what's here, that's been here all along. But the actions to get there may seem relatively new, because a lot of people want freedom, a lot of people want truth, but they may not know exactly how to achieve it. And that's where my specialization has been over the past few years, was focusing on how we can create more action. So I figured to get in touch with What on Earth was happening, which is Mark Passio's show. I found his Discord and I wanted to make sure to do a call. And you know, lucky me, first or second time going onto the Discord, I get called on. And you know, I contacted you know, Leah, who also works with Mark. I contacted Mike, who also works with Mark, and they're a great bunch of people. And I always stayed in contact with them, sharing them, you know, the ideas and the things that I have planned. And I saw what I had was kind of unique, that I didn't really see anywhere else. When it came to bringing people together, mass amounts of people, for this understanding of natural law. That's what I want to do. My goal in life is to bring this knowledge to everyone. Just at least create the conversation that needs to be created in the world, and get people asking questions they never would have asked before. So, you know, I felt the need to say something on that day. And my understanding since then has even increased more, you know, over time, as I've delved into this and met more people and talked to them face to face. So, but I like to keep things simple. And, you know, as we move on here, I'll share with you some of those simple things that I use to share with people this information that I know you guys share with as well. I think that's why we're also on the same page, because we recognize the creator, we recognize its laws, and we recognize that's what we have to do, is understand those laws so we can apply our actions, abide our actions to those laws, so we can create the world we want to live in. And so I say it's a natural way to change the world, but it really is, because life is all one big learning experiment. So I'm always learning, and it was glad to have that opportunity to meet Mark. I brought a lot of people from that Discord channel to other Discord channels, and just bringing people together alone was so powerful. So I hope to continue to keep doing that, and in real life.
Yeah, unity is in community, right? And nature is the answer. It's simple and profound because it's the truth, right? I mean, we look at modalities in life, and humans, our whole system is artificial. So it's obvious, right, that we need to look at the perfect system, nature itself, and then incorporate that into our day-to-day practices, our lives, and on the aggregate. So, well said, man. That's awesome.
Agreed. As with you.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I definitely feel everything you're saying. I mean, you know, just the simplifying the message and reaching out to people. I always think of, you know, Mark teaches that wisdom is action, you know? And so it's like, okay, you've got this understanding to some level, right? We all have it at different levels. And like, when you bring it out to the public, it kind of challenges your ability to explain it, you know, and you start realizing where the conversation needs to go, you know, and you wouldn't get that unless you actually went out and, like, you know, tried to like interact with the public on some level, other than just on the computer, or, you know, with people that kind of already think the same way. It's that echo chamber of social media.
Exactly.
We call it breaking the algorithm, you know?
Yeah, we don't want to become what we're fighting, right? And we want to be careful not to be contradictory to the mission as message that we all share here. You know, another way to say, you know, and I have the letters right there, the UNITAE. You see that next to my name. Another way to say that is UNITÄ, right? Unit anarchy, unit answer. You know, finding those answers, and again, applying the law, which AE actually represents laws of nature as well. So I think it's a very symbolic thing, but that's what I use as an alternative version of Nita. It's essentially, nature is the answer, Nita plus unite, right? Which is with the regular E, but you merge them together and you get this version, unit AE.
Yeah. You know, that's how I started my journey of awareness was health, the body.
Hmm.
You know, I went through a really dark period, and it was just that simple question of what makes me tick and how does my body truly operate. And I've always been one to question the system. It just always seemed, you know, blatantly, just ridiculously corrupt, right? And but it's such a simple place to start. Just start with yourself and health and body and how it works. And actually, I went straight to water, and that just opened up just multiple paths for me, and that led me on to just this trial and tribulations of questioning and research. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple things go a long way. Simple questions, big questions, very open-minded questions. If you're sitting there asking this really big question, as simple as it may sound, for a long period of time, got a bird.
yeah.
That's why he's so loud.
Love it.
Try living with a bird.
He's
But
digging the info.
he loves it. Um,
That's
but yeah, I mean, they're living their lives too, you know, and that's what I want to do here is you should just live our lives and not be bothered and have people's beliefs being pushed onto others.
Yeah. And that's the core of philosophy, right? It's the simple big questions. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, and for me, it was the health freedom movement in California, you know, so it was again on that level of health and, you know, understanding what, you know, how your immunity actually works and what true health actually is. So, yeah, it's interesting how those questions lead us to the root cause. So,
Mhm.
explain to us a little deeper the vision behind Nita, because I know you've got a lot of
Sure.
different ideas on your website. So, just kind of get into that.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, there's three main actions within this movement, and I'm very critical of a lot of other movements. You know, you might see I have a lot of works talking about freedom cells, which is more of a network, and but they have a structure that is built that can turn into a movement. You look at independent media; a lot of people are on the comments saying, you know, we need to start doing rallies. We need to get out there. We need to bring people together. And there's a lot of uproar. You see people want to do things and they may not know exactly how to go about in doing it and in the greatest effect. So I've tried to study different movements from even Trump's movement to, because it was effective, to Gandhi's movement, to Martin Luther King. And there's many of the past that we can study. Luckily, again, with the internet as tools, as resources that we can utilize to our advantage in the modern day and age. So we don't have to do that, but it definitely helps because this is history and we're supposed to learn from it. That way we don't repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Shocker, everybody.
yeah, so the three main things is representation, networking, and education. So you can also see this, in other words, as promotion and integration for disintegration and demotion. And you're going to wonder, well, what is it that I'm representing? What is it that I'm networking with? What is it that I'm educating people about? And so this is if I were to break it down and to put it into a very simple premises. So education would be about natural law, aspects thereof nature that apply to everyone, stuff that can be easily understood through practical experimental observation. And I think that's part of the reason why so much of us love natural law and studying it is because we can understand it within our own lives. It makes sense. And it actually helps create common sense because we're looking at the differences between right and wrong. And that right there, obviously, is the heart of natural law. So that gets right to the root of it. That is what we want to understand. So that way we know our own natural rights. So I could say to someone, well, nature is the answer, whether it be natural law or natural rights, obviously they're intertwined. Same with medicine though. And so, because, you know, medicine, you have your own body, it's your own property, you're supposed to take care of it. You don't want someone messing with your body. You don't want to put someone else in charge of your own body. You can't. Only you live in your own body. So only you can make yourself a healthier person. Someone may help you, but they can't truly help you. Only you can truly help yourself, you know, and take their word and still enact it by yourself because you are the one ultimately taking the action. You're the one more morally culpable because you're the order follower, the person who listens, who understands. So that's where the power lives, is within all of us. So first of all, that premises is that you are the movement, not just me, but everybody. So this networking that we have, it's already ingrained. We already all pretty much want freedom in our own lives in some way. We just have to recognize it and come to a mutual agreement that it is there, and that the natural law is also there and helps define those freedoms and what those rights are and so forth. So if we do that, we already have education, and then we have networking, which can include, for example, freedom cells, right? Or other ways that people can come together. And people may not always want to go to meetings or meet up with one another to be like-minded. There's got to be actions that don't just include that. And there's ways to bring those groups to a greater amplification of volume, of voice, by sharing a common creed or a message among them that becomes loud in the nation and causes all the media to pick up on it. And then soon enough, it's a trending topic and it becomes even bigger. So networking and integration go hand in hand. They're basically the same, but integration includes bringing those ideas together as well, bringing people together. And representation would be basically people having a flag or materials or things that they can share with one another that is of their creative heart. So I like to say education is with courage and guidance, as with networking, and representation is creativity, because what you represent, like a tattoo or an image or anything you use, is a representation, a display of an internal expression that you want to bring out to the world. And so it's important we look at that, because the elites do it to us all the time with their occult symbolism, in our faces, with whatever it may be. The most recent event, obviously, with the satanic shoes and all the other stuff that you might want to point out, from the Super Bowl events to whatever is being on people's faces, whether they accept it or not, they're being exposed to this. And that could be dangerous, especially for younger folks who may not realize what's going on behind the scenes, and realizing that it's still affecting their subconscious. It's still there. And so it's important that people express themselves and they find out how to do that. And ultimately, that's what it all is. So that is where freedom comes into play. Freedom will bring about all this naturally, and freedom will be as a result of all this naturally. But people have to realize that they are self-responsible for their own lives, and that they don't have the right to rule over someone else, and no one has the right to rule over them. So that's the point of bringing people together and realizing, yeah, we are the power. Let's show that we are. And education, which is like, this is what power is. This is how we identify it. And representation, which is saying, yeah, this is who we are, and this is the impact we're going to make. We're going to free the nations. We're going to start here in America. We're going to go to China. We're going to get to every country eventually, because we have something that's universal, that's never been spoken of since the Sumerian Empire, of a simple structure of masters and slaves. We're here to end slavery in total by understanding that we own ourselves and that nobody has the right to rule over us.
Man, that's powerful. I love it. Yeah, I mean, freedom, right? Freedom is expression. It's, it's unhindered expression. And those 3 points you talked about, integration, networking, and representation, I mean, those are crucial points, and I'm stoked that you brought those up. And I feel like we're seeing a lot of that in the community. There's a lot of more people that are either making their own content, they're coming out,
right?
The creative aspect is flowing. We're seeing logos and graphic design pop up, and it's awesome, because with humans, with their unique and just so different, there's one thing that unites us all, and that is morality and nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice to see all these expressions and all the creative energy flowing, but kind of united in under one banner of nature. And that's why conversations like this are so important. So
Yeah, and as I said, when you bring people together, all of a sudden you see so much magic happen. Just simply doing that. We've created like real life clubs, and these people, they come together. They're all different minded. Some of them might be statists or whatnot, but just simply bring them together. Having the fact that some people have other knowledge that others do not, and them simply being in their presence of one another, so that when a topic is introduced, they can bring upon their perspective and show why their perspective is the way there is, the truth always rises above. So simply having our presence there in any which scenario at every different level of the pyramid hierarchical system or whatever you want to look at, having that presence of natural law there will debunk and break all the barriers that we have in this society. I mean, pretty much all of them, because this is pretty well rooted. Mark Pastor says it's the one solution, right? The only solution. He says that on purpose because of how important it is. I look at it even deeper than that, because I say, well, nature itself, and everything that makes up natural law as well. So that's how I look at it. And I look at statism as one of the most denaturing elements in our world. And that's why it is the most impactful. And technology is on its way soon to be the second government, is what I call it. But even that won't matter in a free world. As long as the free world happens, and a free world manifests, everything sort of comes together naturally with it. People can ask us questions all day. How would the world work like this? And, what is the world going to look like? And I can go into detail like I have in some of my presentations, but at the same time, it's so simple, actually. And the simplistic approach is often the better approach. And you can't make a wrong a right, and you can't make a right a wrong. Everything is objective the way they are to be. So we need to simply understand that intended blueprint that's already here, just like our body's blueprint to already heal, and then use it. So we have the ability to speak, use it. Otherwise, you'll lose it. Use your human nature for nature is what I like to say. So otherwise, you're going to lose it. You have to be free in order to create freedom. It's being the change in order to create change, as Gandhi said. You have to show others by example and walk the talk, right? As many will also say. So that's how I look at it. And with integration and promotion, among those other three aspects, representation, networking, and education, they go hand in hand, because you're promoting all those things and you're integrating them. You are at the same time disintegrating and demoting from the systems that don't naturally exist or are meant to be there. And over the generations, we can demote them with knowledge. It is demoted and understood that this thing should never be in existence. Otherwise, democide will happen. Otherwise, war will happen. Because let's face it, war only happens when there's government. Government is created with this monopolized force of war, violence. So it is the very nature of that system that is the problem. And that's why I say nature is the answer, not just in the grand scheme of things, but looking at human nature, the nature of government, the nature of statism, the nature of rights, right? So you can go into everything.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. The couple of things I had so many ideas while you were talking, but like one thing is like, what's interesting is like, it's the same vision that I had, and that we've kind of evolved, but just using slightly different language, but the thing you talk about dissolving or
disintegrating. Right. Like, think about a pyramid system. If fellow workplace employees, let's say politicians or even cops or anybody part of this hierarchical system, educate their fellow men about this and actually understand they have to have the courage to step down from their positions and they're bringing others with them, what a demonstration that would show to the whole rest of that country or to the world, that these people are stepping down to certain reasons, and now they have to find positions for all these people, and they're going to be trying to rush for that. But at least it would make a demonstration and show people, well, why are they stepping down from their positions? But this would happen naturally if people understand that the position that they're in is not moral in nature and always results in a form of evil.
Right. Yeah, because when you look at movements, the one thing you need to think about is COINTELPRO, which is
Right.
where the government infiltrates. But I have this saying that everyone is controlled opposition until no one is, right? And it's sort of the same idea where, you know, an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. So we have to get through to those people too. And you could rack your brain all day about who's controlled opposition and who's infiltrating, but even those people we have to reach too. So
Yes.
if you keep the movement based on principles, then you can hopefully reach those people. And
Everyone.
I like the idea of like everyone having their own like artistic expression. You know, that harkens back to, again, when Mark talked about how it was set up for everyone to have their own website, and they killed that, you know, and they put, you know, they gave us Facebook and they gave us all these other, you know, social media
Right.
platforms, so we didn't build our own, you know. But it does seem like, you know, people are kind of now taking the reins, and there has been, I mean, obviously it's a reaction to what went down in 2020, but I mean, a lot of this stuff, I mean, I started you know, July 13th, you know, I met
Right.
Will in like August, you know, and like we're just like, you just start doing it and start putting it out there. And again, these conversations help us all to kind of get on the same page, or come to, you know, see where we agree and agree to disagree, but
Right.
still support each other. Because that's the great thing about everyone doing their own thing. And like with the One Great Work Network, is maybe you can get through to someone that I can't, you know, they don't feel what I'm saying, you know what I mean?
Right.
So as long as we're all linked together, then
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, you know, someone can, you know, find something that suits them, or they get hooked by a certain content creator, you know.
That's exactly the point, you know, of what I'm doing here with my movement as well. I'm going to other movements in our life. You know, I may not agree exactly with their strategy. They might be nationalistic, you know, constitutional republic type of people, but they have a general sense of freedom at heart. You know, and does it hurt to have someone there who might have a better understanding of where those freedoms actually come from? And you know, to present that to them in a fashion that is at their level and more, and said, hey, I used to be one of you, you know, and this is how I learned to get out of that. So you know, maybe I could share with you how, you know, my experience and how I freed myself, because yeah, I've been doing this for a while now too. You know, I wanted to start a YouTube channel before I started it in 2019, before coronavirus happened, like right before it. But it's nice also to wait, and I don't mind things go a little slower, right? Because you want things to go not too crazy, not too fast. And you have, and for me, especially looking upon a movement, I put it in quotes on purpose. Uh, I, I have a lot of speculations about counter opposition. I made certain slides about that as well in some of my presentations. And you know, I thought a lot about how things would move on in the future, how they would attack, you know, and how people just have to stand by the truth. That's all that matters, because the truth matters. I don't have to speak for it. I don't even have to do anything for it. It will automatically manifest. But you know, we can accelerate that process and save lives. And that's what I think we're doing here, is just trying to save lives with that information for truth, because the truth will come about by itself, but it will hurt people if people don't come to the realization of awareness before experience hits them. So I say awareness before experience. We need to learn, you know, about this stuff before it hits us and we're like, oh shoot, I should have known this all this time, or I'm stuck in a situation where now it's even worse and I didn't see it coming, you know, because people wonder why all this stuff happens. Oh, why are we in a war? Oh, why is the government taking over? Or why is it like this? Why do people let it go? Oh, I wonder why. Just look at what's going on in the world. Look at how people react to this. Um, and I do see some of it within like the freedom communities, you know, of people who are good intentioned, but like I said, may not know exactly how to go about and sharing the information, realizing that knowledge is actually the key. You know, a lot of people to these clubs I go to, they want to elect new people. They're like, okay, let's get in our local elections. We got to make sure the patriots get in office. But and then I'm here like, well, knowledge is more important. Knowledge is what's truly going to free us. Even some of the founding fathers said it themselves, because they understood aspects of natural law. It's in the Declaration of Independence. Do we know what this is? I mean, you claim to love this country for what it was founded on. So let's understand why it was founded. These people just wanted some freedom. Doesn't mean that they had the best of intentions or knew exactly how to do it. I even think that a lot of these founding fathers knew it was bound to fail, because they were talking about it in their books all the time, about how, we got to make sure it doesn't grow to tyranny. And the Declaration of Independence says if they ever have to succeed again, Benjamin Franklin saying, if you can keep it, they were like unsure in a way, but they wanted to build something that would at least give them freedom for the time being. Because I think, like I said, that's what everyone desires. So Gandhi did the same thing. Everybody enjoys it for maybe the first couple of years, but government quickly becomes corrupt because it is in its very nature to do so. And the problem with movements like Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. is they're making themselves a threat. They point to themselves and they are the leader, the central figure of it all. There will be central leaders of any movement, but because they're more outspoken, because they have the knowledge and they share it with others and they're effective at doing it. But it doesn't have to be one person, and casting away that ego and bringing it to others is what a true leader should do, as it says in the Tao Te Ching, which is a book I heavily appreciate, talking about real leadership, which is far different from any government we have now. It's not a government. I like to call it self-government. The actual self-government is we in control of our own mind. The only form of self-government could be that of no government, because then you're only in control of yourself, truly. So what a mind wrap it is to get around, but that's why we call it the one great work. And I'm fully willing to, bring this movement to everybody in the one great work and elsewhere, because I do believe we do need a binding message, a binding flag, or a binding mission that we have to amplify our voices in total. So that's where representation comes in, because we already have the network with the One Great Work Network, and I'm glad to be a part of this. And I think you guys put out great work on that, getting out there and also meeting people in real life, bringing them to the network. And it's all networking. And then, what's with the last step, education. I mean, everything we do here is educational. We're not here electing people.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here pushing any of their games. We're not playing their game. We're not playing into it feeling like, well, we have to play into it in order to defeat it. We have to get into the system in order to get out of it. Wrong. Wrong. It's actually both. It's in and out. And just as you heal the body, I mean, external environments, internal environments, and that doesn't include getting individuals in the system, because their families are out of the system and their families have folks who are quote unquote in the system, but that system is a belief system within itself. And if it's a belief system, it's not one you have to go internally to fix. A belief system is one that we all have as humanity. So there's nothing you have to go inside in order to fix within this artificial system if it's not even existent to begin with.
Yeah, man. I love it. Do great work. One thing I wanted to say, John and I, when we go out into the field and we interact with people, the energy that is generated from that is phenomenal. And
oh yeah,
I want to encourage people to think about maybe doing this, even if you're by yourself. Make a sign. You can print out some papers. Cory's got information. We have information, and sit out there and just have just positive conversations. Just converse with people, and the energy from that is phenomenal. And those kind of things. I mean, a plethora of options that we can do. The energy is tenfold more powerful than going with the system.
oh yeah, and modify it to your liking. If
Sure,
you're somebody who's listening, change it as you wish, but keep the principles as is. There's different ways to word the same understandings, and that's like what you were mentioning before. So that's where you can use your creative expression. We all want freedom at heart. Okay, so that's what it is, freedom. But now everything else, how do you bring that freedom and everything? That's up to you. That's where you could put your magic in. You're a poet, you're an artist, you're a musician, whatever it may be. You're a cook, doesn't matter. You can you can find a way to bring this knowledge in any of those fields, because those are all forms of creativity. And because you're doing it and a lot of other people aren't, you'll stand out as well. But, do what makes your heart content in this case. And a lot of people are afraid to just at least start with some basic starter steps, but they need to know that they can start at those basic starting steps, because again, things should be simple. If you just want freedom and don't know every aspect about natural law and so forth, that's okay. It is important to learn about it, and of course learn deeper as much as you see fit, but don't be afraid to start going out there, and don't just keep telling yourself, well, I don't know enough and I can't do enough. Yes, you can. You could always start somewhere, because you already might have knowledge that other people do not. Right there, boom, you got something to work with.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's
for sure.
That's what's great about writing a message on a sign where you have limited space, because it's just like it forces you to simplify it down to like 5 words, or like
Yeah.
7 words. And, it's like, it's because ultimately the principle is it's about objective morality, and it's like people can grasp that, and how deep they go into that concept. I mean, some people will reject it, but
Mhm.
for us, it's when we're going out in the streets, we have to simplify it to try to hook people to hear something deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we talk to people, they want to go down all these rabbit holes and try to, gather all this information. They're looking for answers. And it's like, look, we're not out there saying we have all the answers.
Right.
We have to reel them back in and bring them down. And let's talk about morality. Let's talk about rights. And it's a simple concept, but it's so important to stay grounded in that topic and just starting from there, starting from the basics. And that's the beauty about just humans in general, right? It's like
Yes.
you have the foundation of morality and nature, but it blossoms into all different type of diverse expressions.
And
So
that's what
everyone's
it'll
got their
come
own
to.
flavor. Yeah.
That's what it'll come to, because it's the very natures, what I like to say, the very natures which is going to matter the most, which means our very ability to question to begin with. So not even the fact of what we're questioning, but it's actually going to come down to the very ability to question, the very ability to speak, the very ability to do those things. I mean, that is what it's going to come down to. So simply bringing up questions to people, that within itself doesn't even matter what it is a powerful thing, because it's getting them thinking about something that they didn't think about before, or within their own life. And so now they can think more innovatively about the solutions or the actions they take in that life. Because again, our thoughts become our actions, and our actions become the manifested world. So if we're all taking similar actions to one another in the aspects that I mentioned about like education, about natural law, or representation of having these certain materials, or networking with finding like-minded people and not, uh, then because they need the information the most, by making appeals. So like I wrote pages to health practitioners, to independent media, to even political parties. There's different ways, if you approach things at their level and at where they stand with politics or whatever, you can actually find your way in there, again, by simply being present and letting things flow. You don't have to be super pushy about it. You don't have to be super angry about it, but express yourself. Don't suppress it. Find a way to express it, and you don't have to do it super invasively. And I think non-invasive, just as Gandhi did with non-violent resistance, is always better when it comes to mass amounts of people coming together doing things. So, we can actively promote that. Especially as vocal people who have more knowledge of this information. So we're more likely to be leading guides within this information, but we want to inspire others to have this information. A true leader is who creates other leaders, like Mark, and all of a sudden you have a whole network of people, talking about this knowledge. But that's what it is, because it's truth. And if we realize it is, and it's like, wait, we need to promote it. We feel a moral obligation to do so.
I think it's so cool how, everything in 2020 started happening, and he just started like screaming on his podcast. And like all of a sudden there's just like all these people like started doing the great work. I mean, we did an interview with Cal Washington, who he created the notice of liability. He's from Canada, and it's this, you know, it's basically a contract, but it's sort of like this spiritual contract. It's really pretty interesting. And he was talking about how he had been on a couple of podcasts that had just started up in the last year and had already like picked up some steam, you know. So it's crazy just how much has happened in the last 2 years, you know.
Well, consciousness is changing, right? We're getting intense energy that is affecting our consciousness, and the social engineers know this, right? They're influencers. So, you know, that's why we're kind of in the mess that we are now. It's about distract and misdirection. And but it is a powerful time to focus and ask questions and, you know, spark that fire of the will and, you know, get out there and do something.
And we can learn from those actions, the things that they've done to program people, so we can learn how to deprogram people,
Yeah.
right? How they got in that place in the first place. If we understand how they got there, then we can understand how to reverse it and take it back. You know, just like if we were talking about a diabetic, oh, it's impossible to reverse diabetes. Well, people have done it. You have to understand how you got there in the first place, find the root cause of the situation, and you can do it. You know, just because someone may say, oh, it's impossible to get rid of government. And, oh, again, a right is a right. Truth always comes to shine. It's dependent on us. You are the question. Nature is the answer. You must be the change. Otherwise, things will just keep manifesting, because who else will do it if not you? And you see something that other people do not see, it is your responsibility to bring that to others, especially if it'll save lives. So now is the perfect time to get out there. It's always the perfect time to speak the truth, but especially in today's world, if you see a lot of people could use it, to which they can, and they don't have to get themselves in trouble, in a mess. And I do feel bad sometimes for celebrities. I feel bad for certain people, you know, although a lot of people might want to put blame on them, you have to understand where they come from as well. Put yourself in their shoes. It could be very difficult sometimes, but they also have a lack of willpower and responsibility. And sometimes they inherited that position, and it becomes difficult. They have smaller pyramid systems of themselves, but they also are just like you and I. We're just human beings, and they're in the same system playing the same games. And that's where we can really wake up even more people, is reaching out to, who knows, maybe Trump will get into this information later in time. You never know. But
Yeah.
because, you know, just that inspiring energy, that human-like interaction can change so much just within itself. And that's what Trump did in 2016, is at least show a little bit more humanity. He was still a statist, and that was the problem, right? The problem. But his simple human expression caused people to all of a sudden uproar against the streets. A good businessman. He got the job done for the global elites, and bringing more people into the game of statism. It worked, you know. More people now playing the game, because now they're fooled into thinking, you know, oh, this person's for freedom, this person is against freedom, and you know, it's a war, it's a battle, we got to defeat censorship, we got to defeat terror. It's not a war, guys. It's educating the world. You know what we're doing, it's not a war. And so a lot of people might feel like it is, and it technically is. You know, we have an enemy to point out, but those enemies are among us. And if I want to say, you know, we're all humanity, and this is something that we all have to do, then we don't want to make targets, because if we make targets, then we're actually making targets. If we're making enemies, we're pointing fingers saying these are the liberals, these are the conservatives, we're creating it by our word usage. I don't know if you know how powerful terminology is, but words can really mean a lot here, to the existence of these things, right? When I said government, and when I said self-governance, they usually resort that to democracy, and people make associations with these terms. But if you break open that barrier with knowledge and say, well, government means mind control, and these words can only apply to certain things, then it starts becoming more clear. Like, wait, I was programmed to believe this. I was programmed to believe we are free, and that we, the people, own the country. No, you don't. Never consented to it. You know, you're not even part of the decision-making process. Your voting is not your voice. Your voice can only be your voice. This is brainwashing with simple word usage. And, you know, I've been working with some people who talk about common law in real life. I'm not sure how much you guys looked into that, but very, very cool, because you can have common law courts in a free society with understanding natural law, with no government. You know, these people in common law, what they do is they're pointing out these terms, the words that people are using, and realizing, hey, no, the USA is a corporation, you know, and you are an individual sovereign being, you know, and they try to get very definitive as to what that is, and they find ways around the system. But if we really want to get to the root cause, we have to stick to those basics, like you mentioned, right? So statism and education of rights, but one without the other is incomplete.
Yeah. Well said. And I love what you said, that um yes, there is an enemy, but they're among us, right? It's ignorance is what it is. And how do you combat ignorance? With education and knowledge.
Hmm.
And so, so many people, and I always stress this, I say this a lot of times, people want to know exactly who it is. Is it Bill Gates? Is it this? Is it that? Who's doing it? It's like, look, it's your neighbor. It's the people you're walking by on the street. It's everyone in your
Yep.
community that doesn't understand morality, objective morality, doesn't have knowledge. And I think it's important to focus on that, because there's a couple components. There's the humanistic component where you might have a little empathy, like, okay, I was at that point in sometime in my life. But and then it also puts the pressure on education, like you said, educating people. And John and I, we think the same on, we want to reach everyone,
Yes.
anyone and everyone, because what we're really doing is planting seeds, right? We're like truth knowledge farmers. And you never
Hmm.
know when someone is at that point where they hear you or see your sign or get a pamphlet or whatever, or see your video, and then bam, that just sparks their desire to ask questions, to follow the information, to learn and take it in.
Yeah, or plant seeds, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't have to understand it right there and then. They might have an instance later on in their life, and they have your signs or your messages or your websites close by, and they start going back to it, thinking about, wait, someone told me about this before. Wait, someone talked to me about freedom, and they asked these questions. I need to find out what they were talking about with me. And all of a sudden, they come back to it and they're like, shoot, I should have listened. And this happens with a lot of family members too, often, right? We see with people is like they'll tell their family, and then their family takes 20-30 years just to understand something like this. But that's the programming that's been set in, and that's okay. That's okay. So we can keep it real simple. We don't have to go jump right to natural law. I like to say, make bridges. You can start with nature, use that as a means to appeal to someone and bring them into natural law thereafter. Or, if someone's in politics, they're used to using words such as law and government, you can jump maybe into that right away. If someone's into medicine, you talk about healing the body and how that applies to healing the world. You see how you can make appeals to different people if you seek to talk to those different people. But I'm sure everybody has their expertise, and they're used to delivering things in their own manner. Mark is good at delivering things in a very angry, passionate way. I say angry in a good way, of course, because that inspires more people, to see things in a different light again, even in a different way. And many leaders of the past have been very influential because of that anger, because they see something is wrong, so they have to point it out. You first have to point out what's wrong, before anything. If something is wrong, you have to say, well, this is wrong. Otherwise it will continue. So even if you talk about what is right, if you can't identify what is wrong, then it becomes a situation where, what are you fighting?
Yeah.
And then everyone becomes lost and confused. So it has to be clear, definitive as to what it is.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
was funny the other day. I was like feeling really good. I had like, I think it was on one of the Moral Law Mondays, and I had like, had a good day and got talked to a few people, handed out some cards, and was on a roll. And then I had this, I got a screw in my tire. So I had the AAA guy come out, and I handed him a card, and he looked at it, and then he's like, oh, what is he goes, I saw you guys standing out on the street in front of Safeway in Walnut Creek. And I was like, yeah. And then he goes, so what's it all about? And I started like saying too much. You know what I mean? I
Getting
Yeah.
should
too
have just
deep on
said,
them.
I should have just said, go read the card and check the website out, you know, but I started going too deep and he was like, nah, I'm not interested. And I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
But again, those are like real experiences where you learn from each one, you
Right.
know. And
At
I
least you're getting
remember
out there.
when you first go out, even just one person honking their horn, you're like, yeah, you know, like that's all it takes.
Well,
So
that's an attribute that one must have, right? Is thick skin. You got to be comfortable within yourself too, because you're going to get rejection, you're going to get animosity. All these things are going to come at you. So you have to really be grounded and centered. And yeah,
even a middle finger is exciting sometimes. I mean, to me, I don't get my feelings hurt over it. Like sometimes they don't even know what your sign says and they're just flipping you off because you're out there.
just
But
reacting.
they probably assume you're like a Trump supporter or something like that, you know. But yeah, even that, you're like, at least they saw the sign, you know, like at least it evoked an emotion from them, you know.
Yeah.
So I got another question,
Sure.
which is just picking your brain on, but how can we collaborate and support each other as content creators?
So that is, I think, really important, especially since we both, are on the same page, I'd say, with our goals, trying to bring natural law to people. And well, that's it, just bringing knowledge that people need to know. That's it. If they don't know it, and this is the solution to evening out the playing field, getting rid of this hierarchical system that is enslaving people. And this knowledge is what's kept away from them because it's occult knowledge. And if we had that knowledge, we'd have power because knowledge is power. And knowledge is shared through conversation and creativity. And that conversation is based on knowledge, and that knowledge is of truth, it is of nature. We're on the same boat then. So then what we can do with this is share resources that we've made, right? So all the creative things that we mentioned, how everyone creates something different. Sure. I had people like reach out to me. They're like, I'm going to remake this for you. I'm like, great. Great. I don't want mine to be the final product. I want you to take it and, make it something maybe a little bit different, something that someone else will like a different way. Perfect. Add to it and modify it, do what you wish, but the principles stay the same. And that's all that matters. So, that's what I have people reaching out all the time to. And it's great because I'm making all these different sheets and stuff that come to mind. I'm like, it's not made, so I have to make it. And it's like I wish there were more things that people were creating out there, I'll be honest. But and it doesn't have to be a YouTube channel, it doesn't have to be online, so getting involved with people in real life, if you have a flag, I think that's good, because if everybody on independent media shared similar things, like I might want to get a Natural Freedom League shirt from you guys. Like if we share those things, then we actually create a movement. We're not a movement until we do. That amplifies our voices and makes us known, like, yes, we're together, we understand this. Okay, we're not making ourselves separate, because we're still saying everyone is, I'm putting in quotes, I'm doing all these things, because it's not a normal movement per se, is what other movements do. They try to divide people, they're divisive in their nature. But this is all about universal truth, universal nature. It's to represent nature. So it's not even that you have to join it, it's that you have to contribute to it. How much you contribute to it shows you how much you are a part of it, how much you're a part of the truth. So you don't have to even join anything. By joining, you are simply actually just representing, you're simply just putting out content that is based on the information. There's no contracts you have to sign and all these special things. No, like, there's these movements out there getting signatures and doing all this stuff. You're going to make yourself a threat. You're going to make yourself a divisive entity that everyone's going to point at, and you're going to target yourself, because now they have a list of names, they have a list of locations, especially with freedom cells. That's a little of a downside too sometimes. These are things we have to keep in mind, because if they want to attack people, it becomes easier and easier if there's too much of a structure, too much. Because I've talked about this in one of my PowerPoint presentations, about structure and how you really want to have to keep it simple. This is as simple as it can be. You represent the knowledge, you share the knowledge as much as you're willing, you look into the knowledge as much as you're willing. It's natural to change the world. That's why I call it, say, the natural way to change the world. We're not doing anything invasive, we're not introducing anything new, simply opening eyes to what's already here, amplifying our voices with symbols or things that represent our voices and our ideas. And it's very self-explanatory. Like, I'll have the flag of nature is the answer. It's NITA in the logo. Nature is the answer. It's right there. You see a tree, you see a sun, you have the aspects. It represents what it's supposed to represent, and I think a lot of our materials are trying to do that as well. It's supposed to represent the truth. You want to make something, if it's based on truth, you want it to try to best represent it, as best as you could, as human beings. So that is something I do suggest, a lot of independent media do. We share our resources. I'm willing to send over resources to you guys in real life, for free. I've been doing it overseas sometimes, very expensive, but I've been doing it. There's people in Sweden who are having groups meeting up together. It's great. And I'm willing to support them as well and give them materials if they want to start up groups and, have more of the movement to amplify our voices within it. And so what I recommend is, like, I see you guys put Natural Freedom League on everything that you do. I put Nita.one on everything that I do. What if we shared each other's websites on everything that we do? Double the impact and everywhere we go, and we agree to it mutually. And if you have any complaints, you have anything to say, additional comments, concerns, you want to change it, remember, you are the movement, right? And it is what I say. So you help change things, and you can talk to me if it's about the main website, but I don't change that stuff on purpose, because it's got to be set in stone. I can't start changing things when people agree to certain things. So, if there's anything that you guys want to go over, with it, when it comes to my material, feel free to change anything, modify it to your liking, change colors, whatever you want to do. It's fine. As long as the website is there and the knowledge is there and the knowledge stays the same, then we'll free the world.
Yeah. Mark Passio takes that same approach, right? He makes all his slides and graphics available for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
his videos, everything. And that's a really powerful point in the topics you were just mentioning. I forgot what I was going to say. Go on, John. It slipped my mind.
Yeah, no, I think that, I definitely, I need to update the website and put your website on there. I've tried to link, as many people every time I update it, link more people. I should have everybody on the network just linked onto our website. But yeah, I really like the idea of, getting a couple of your cards, printing them out ourselves, or even getting them from you and just having them out there on the table, you know what I mean? And we can just, if people, are interested, just, here's another, source you can go to and
Right.
find, the same type of information. Another thing with what you were saying was about, I was talking about that today with Will, where people, maybe get your materials and go and do an event, but like, the one thing that I would want to say to all of those people is just stick to the principles, right? Like we actually created like a little protocol just to kind of describe what we do. And, I really want to get into the idea of like, don't react to people, we're there to educate people. There's
Mm-hmm.
it just sort of letting people know how we are conducting ourselves so that they
Right.
hopefully will maintain that same standard and keep those same principles. One thing I was thinking about is we have a group out here in Santa Cruz, and they do an event called Free Hugs, and it's awesome. It's free hugs. If people want a hug, they go give them a hug. But I mean, Santa Cruz is like a tough area. They've dealt with a lot of haters out there. Where the way we set up, and I'm not saying it's better, I'm just saying it's different. I set up a table with chairs, and we're kind of sitting back, but we have signs so people kind of see what we're talking about. But it's more like inviting people in who are interested
Right.
instead of like really trying to be in people's faces.
Exactly.
And I think that sort of fits the principles that we're trying to teach.
Yeah.
Is not, we're not really trying to be like, but I mean,
Yeah.
in some ways it is good to be in people's face about it. But for our style, we just prefer, you know, the whole point is to educate people, to reach
Right.
people. If someone doesn't agree with you, just agree to disagree and like move
Right.
on, you know. And
Well, that's
so
the beautiful thing I see about a flag is it stands there on its own behalf. You know, you don't have to speak for it. It does its own work. It does its own magic. Someone looks at it, they're like, what is this? You know, and there's a website in the corner. So we kind of modernize a flag a little bit, make it even more powerful. And then people can look into it for themselves. And then they can learn that knowledge for themselves. And they can, you know, and then all of a sudden they're doing their own research. You know, you're automatically breeding philosophers and people who will look into certain information more than others, or simply just agree with the basis foundation, and then they grow from there. Because, you know, you don't have to like look into everything immediately before you get a flag and be like, oh, well, you know, I need to make sure I look into everything, make sure everything's cool. Like, you know, this is your movement. You do what you see fit with this, but the knowledge stands for itself and the truth will rise above naturally. So I have trust in the process. You know, one must have trust in the process and the knowledge that it'll do its deeds. And when it comes to getting in people's faces, yeah, we don't want to do that, but we can plant seeds if we do. And so we keep it non-invasive in that case. And you know, when we're talking with people one-on-one, if they seem really interested, you know, we go a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, and then, you know, ask questions. You know, ask questions, I think, is really important. You guys have a list of questions I saw for your season of sovereignty, and I have a list of questions too for like I have one sheet that says like the 5 main questions for natural change. And it's like 5 basic questions, like how can we change the world? You know, can we change the world? And like simple things like that, because people already know these answers instinctively. They know what they should do. The only thing they need is motivation to go do it. That's literally it. And that's why leaders are so effective, is because they get up there and they inspire them. They give them energy. They're like, roar, you know, we need to do this and we can do this. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. As long as they're not pushing it on that one person to do it all for them. You know, it tends to be that the greatest leaders in history cause the greatest innovation in their country or in their part of the world. Because, you know, now all of a sudden automobiles are growing, all of a sudden technology is booming because people are inspired to go out and do things simply because the energy is there, just because the energy is there. So like I said, it could be on the knowledge, it could be on the inspiration, the simple human talk that we're losing by the day with masks and everything. Simply having any of those things, because they're all part of nature instinctively for who we are. If you express it, you won't lose it, but you have to continue expressing it and do not suppress it.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, and one bonus about going out in public and having conversations with people is you're exercising your rights, your natural rights. And what I was going to
Yes.
say is you were talking about postcards and stuff, and yeah, we're down to send some postcards to whomever.
Yeah, please.
And we're also going to do a Dropbox in the description of this video with resources from Cory and John and I. So, and you know, people can take those and marinate on them and, you know, do what you do. But these almost considered old school marketing tactics, right, are, I think, powerful nowadays, because you're stepping out of the social media bubbles that, you know, the algorithms are putting everyone in. So, and you're having face-to-face conversation. So
Yeah. And that's what we need, right? To actually defeat censorship is having a real life base, a real life movement of people coming together. That will beat any, you know, technological platform.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we call it detachment activism.
exactly.
So what platforms can we find you on? Where can everybody find your work, and what do you, any new projects you got going? Or
Sure. Well, you know, lately, if I start a new project, I kind of just want to bring a lot more people on board, because I feel like, you know, the more that we have our own projects and the more people feel like they're a part of it, the more investment they'll have into the movement and everything about it. And plus, we get more insight and more perspective into everything. So I think it's important that we work together. And that's why I'm doing a lot more collaborative projects. Like I might want to make a brochure with a lot of different books and keep like really simple passages, simple phrases, and put that all into a brochure and just hand it out to people. Like from like the end of all evil, from the most dangerous superstition, you know, from like books like that, which like we take out parts of the book and we put it in the brochure, like the most simplest ones that will cause questions, just so people can question authority. Like that could be the first brochure, is just getting people to question authority. And we don't plug anything at the end, nothing. Maybe we just put the flag there at the end because the flag is non-invasive. We're not telling anyone to go anywhere, do anything. It just shows a sense of belonging. And then it's like they know if they want to find more, they can go there themselves. But yeah, you can find all my works on all the platforms. I have a link tree, which also has all my links. So you can go to linktree.com/natureistheanswer. And that will give you all my links. But I'm on Library, BitChute, Brighteon, YouTube, and a whole bunch of others as well. But mainly those, because I post to those, and some of those are also automatic feeds. That's for my own personal content, by the way, which is off of my movement's website, because again, we're all the movement.
Yeah, man. I love it. And also make sure to go to the One Great Work Network, and Cory's got all his work on there. And
oh yeah, for sure.
His videos are playing like crazy on the live feed. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, you seem to be pretty prolific. So good for you putting in all that work.
Thank you.
And we appreciate having you, appreciate meeting you.
Thank you. As with you. And I can't wait to share more resources with you guys and get more involved. I love what you guys are doing over there. I mean, that is the perfect example of what I think people should be doing, at least in our sphere of the world.
Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, likewise, man. We'll do some more collaborations. And thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you, Will.
Thanks, John.
And always remember, put something good in the air and plant something good in the earth. Peace.
We be the natural freedom league, cause we become no longer